So far, this offseason for the Hurricanes has been pretty quiet. Are they going to run it back? And we're going to be talking about a perfect storm. Cory Lavalette from The Athletic, North State Journal, and of course his book, The Perfect Storm. We'll talk to him about everything Carolina Hurricanes on today's Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Zach Martin, and on today's Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, I'll be talking with Cory Lavalette, going over the Hurricanes offseason so far. Of course, with them being so quiet this offseason, are they running it back? And of course, we talk about his book, Perfect Storm, which if you haven't picked this thing up yet, do it. It's amazing. I've already read it at least, 3 times this offseason. Make sure to do so. It is very fantastic. And Cory, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing all right, man. Good to catch up with you. I hope you're enjoying your summer.
It's been good. Dragging a little bit, to be honest with you. It's I know we're like a month away. I know we're recording on Thursday. I think we're like officially a month away from the first preseason game. And I don't know about you. It's dragging a little bit, and I'm kind of getting that itch to talk about actual games and not speculations. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't mind a little bit of a break here. It's been a short off season, so I don't mind taking another month. Well, at least a couple of weeks until camp opens. So.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah. I don't mind the small break, but after a while, it's kind of like I'm kind of ready for it to be done. But that being said, the Hurricanes have been mainly quiet this offseason. I know we've got some trades here and there. We got some signings with Zach Zachenko. We've seen some extensions with Ronan Seeley, Alexei Himosami, and stuff like that. But relatively, it's been a quiet offseason so far for the Canes. And for you, what's it been like for you just kind of seeing the Hurricanes not really having to do a whole lot? And it feels like, past teams who've won a cup had to we're talking to the Blackhawks, the Kings, the Penguins of the 2010s having to kind of reload their rosters. But now with the Hurricanes and the cap going up, they don't really have to do that. So what's it been like for you just kind of seeing this just quiet offseason overall?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew this, regardless of what happened at the end of last season, unless they wanted to make sweeping changes, that, everyone's pretty much locked in. They had the one thing up in the air, which was Freddie Anderson, and obviously decided to move on to Edmonton. So that's the one, I guess, major change that we're going to see. But yeah, I mean, we knew that was the only business, along with the Alexander Nikishin RFA situation, which still needs to be sorted out. But yeah, I mean, with the way they've been smart about being proactive with contracts, it's really locked things up, and they still have a ton of cap space. Which gives them an opportunity to do something if they so choose. Like I said, obviously they need to hammer out the Nikishin situation, and that's going to take a little bit of that cap space, if he resigns. But beyond that, they've got some stuff to play with. You've got some teams that are already, up against the cap a bit. We know the situation in Anaheim and them having to get Cutter Gauthier signed and not having the cap space to do it, essentially. So there's going to be situations like that maybe because they have cap space, they can take advantage of it. To be honest, they played this really smart a few years ago, and this quickly escalating cap actually hurts them because it gives other teams space that I don't think anybody thought they would have. So, they get hurt a little bit by that, but still it's better to be in that situation than, being up against it.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Because there's already teams, like you said, they're already up to it. And the thing like Colorado's under 100,000. I think there's one or two teams there. I think like a little bit over. I forget which team it was. I think someone was like 5 or 6 million over the cap already. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's good to be under instead of over. But like you said too, you're kind of log jammed because it's even with Seth Jarvis out until end of November, early December, you really don't have any roster holes to kind of fill up, because in reality you have your 13 forwards, and the only guy you really got to worry about, like you said, is Alexander Nikishin, and then it's who's your seventh defenseman? Is it Valimaki? Is Mike Riley coming back? No one really knows what that situation's like either. So yeah, I agree with you. It's just the Hurricanes put themselves in a good spot, but they don't really have to, make sweeping changes. It's just they're running the roster back. But then, like you said, it's, where are the necessary holes they really need to fill. And that's kind of, that situation. But you bring up Alexander Nikishin, and I know a lot of fans are still kind of like, okay, what's going on with this? You're hearing this like about, he wants this certain amount of money. Hurricanes maybe don't want to go that far because it's 1 year of service time that he's done so far. And then there's all these rumors of like the Blues and the Rangers and stuff like that. Like, what are your overall thoughts of this whole situation with Alexander Nikishin and just kind of where, August 20th, and there's really no traction, no, I guess, headway of, what direction are we going in here, it seems like.
Yeah, I think that the situations with, RFAs that don't have arbitration rights get blown out of proportion quite a bit because really there's, the leverage that Alexander Nikishin has is saying, well, I'm not going to come. Is that something he really wants to do? Does he want to go back to the KHL? He's not in a situation where he can demand a whole lot. I guess, you just kind of wait and see. And we've gone through this before. It was very similar to the Martin Necas situation where there was so much smoke, whether it was, at the opening of free agency, at the draft, while everybody was waiting for a bridge deal to be signed. On the floor in Las Vegas, people thought he was going to be moved, and he wasn't, obviously. And it did happen eventually, and maybe that's how this ends, in a year, in 2 years, whatever, is Nikishin moves on. But in my mind, it's probably going to end up in a similar situation where we get, a 1 or 2 year bridge deal here. And, probably they'd like multiple years, I'm sure, so they're not dealing with the same thing again. And then just, figure out what the long-term plans are. There's not really a path unless there's injuries for him to be anything more than a third pairing guy, unless he were to unseat Jalen Chatfield on the top pairing or something like that this year. But after this year, there's two guys who are coming off the books. Shane Gostisbehere and Chatfield are both going to be unrestricted free agents. And that, I think if he looks at it that way, he might see, well, there's a chance to play in the top four. There's a chance to be on the top power play unit. There's a lot of things there. The question is, do the Hurricanes see him as a guy who can do that as effectively, play in the top four and, run a power play the way the guys who are holding those roles right now are doing. So pretty interesting situation. Obviously, you got a guy like Nystrom who's hanging around there too. Legault's, knocking on the door a little bit. You got a couple other guys that I think have potential. I think the Dink has got a chance in a couple of years to be an NHLer. So it'll be interesting to see how that all hashes out. But try not to get too worked. Everybody got worked up about it the second July 1st, and it's just like that's the last bit of business that any GM is worried about is a guy who doesn't have leverage, and that's kind of where Alexander Nikishin is now. He can say whatever he wants, but he really, can't demand a whole lot. He can't get an offer sheet, anything like that. So we'll see. I imagine it's going to end with a bridge deal for 2 years for, I don't know, $5.5 million a year or something. We'll see what that ends up being. But I don't know what the dollar amount will be, but I think that's probably where this will end up. And then maybe once that deal's done, that even opens the door for a potential trade for a team that has a little cost certainty. You don't want to trade for him and then have him say, well, I want to get paid $8 million, unless that's what you're willing to do. Obviously the Hurricanes willing to do that with Keandre Miller last year. So.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like you said, it's an interesting situation. It really has no leverage because you're talking about a guy who has played 1 year of the NHL and, he had 1 point in the playoffs, and it's just, to see the number, it's like, okay, you can ask for whatever number, but the Hurricanes don't have to give it to you. And you and me and everyone else who knows this franchise and this front office, especially with Eric Tulsky, they're not just going to throw money at a guy. It's like, are you going to make sense to what our cap for this year and in the future is going to make sense? And, what's the, not a lot of people don't want to talk about analytics, but what is the analytics saying and stuff like that too. So yeah, it's a situation where it's like, okay, you can ask for it, but this is a front office that's not going to just be like, okay, here you go. Like, No, they're pretty smart. Like we look at, Logan Stankoven's contract, look at Jackson Blake's. Like I think the Athletic put out an A+ grade for this front office, which was number 1. Like for you, it's like what a no-brainer at this point, right? For the grade that the Hurricanes got in terms of just contracts and prospects and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and to get back to Nikishin, I mean, the thing is even if you wanted to give him a long-term deal and he asks for $8 million a year, are you really in a place where you want to make him your highest paid defenseman? Like,
right.
No matter how much we want to talk about, guys being about the team, there definitely are going to be people who look at numbers and say, wow, how did that person, get paid more than I did? So to me, that's a guy that was your 6th defenseman throughout the postseason. I don't know that they're in a place right now to say, you can be the highest paid guy on our defense. To your point about the front office stuff, yeah, I mean, that obviously, people have made fun of the Jesperi Kotkaniemi deal for a few years. But the philosophy of this front office is we're going to take chances. We're going to bet on guys we think are going to succeed. And if we can come out ahead on that, more often than we don't, then we're ahead of the game. And yeah, the Jesperi Kotkaniemi deal hasn't worked out, but it sure looks like the Jackson Blake deal, the Logan Stankoven deal, certainly the Seth Jarvis deal, and the Andrei Svechnikov deal. All of those deals look like bargains in today's NHL, thanks to the fact that the Hurricanes bet on those guys early. So, I mean, their front office has done a brilliant job. Darren York deserves a lot of credit for the way they've drafted. They haven't hit a ton of home runs, but they have hit on some pretty important guys and guys that, and then they've been able to use guys like Scott Morrow, who, I don't think is a bad player, but they identified pretty quickly, like, this guy is not going to fit what we want to do. Let's sell while they're still high value. And they, turned that into a player they think does fit in Keandre Miller. So they've done a good job all around with all those things, especially, for the last almost decade, drafting at the end of the first round, or usually trading out of the first round. So yeah, I mean, obviously the front office has done a brilliant job, and the goalie situation is, we'll see how those two guys do, but the fact that you enter the season at under $4 million on your spreadsheet for goaltending is pretty wild. And, nobody's saying, oh my God, the Hurricanes aren't going to be able to win because of who they have in goal. Obviously Frederik Andersen had some great moments here. Great, first 3 rounds of the postseason this past year. But they believe in Brandon Busty for sure, especially after what he did. He's got to be riding high confidence wise. And I still think they thought all along that Pyotr Kochetkov is the guy with the highest ceiling. And maybe, with his surgery and recovery and everything, maybe there's a chance for him to be more healthy. He's had his health issues as well. If he can have a solid, healthy year, if he doesn't have to play 50 games, if those two guys can split the games, kind of weird to say 84 games, but if they can split the games this year, there's a chance for him. And obviously he's got, he's in the final year of his deal. So, there's a prove it thing for them there. I'll be curious to see what kind of year he has, but the front office has done a great job with all that stuff, and have put themselves in a really solid position here for now, and then, for the future as well.
Yeah, no, they definitely have. And, speaking about the injuries and the roster and all that stuff, stick around, everyone. We'll talk about how the Hurricanes might be running it back. And if everyone stays healthy, could this team be possibly better than the Cup team? Stick around. We'll talk about that here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricane. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel's giving you a free chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick on who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Sometimes it's a hitter who's been on a hot streak, a favorable pitching matchup, or even a ballpark that tends to give up home runs like Coors Field in Colorado. Those are always the first things you could look at when you're making your daily dingers picks. So that being said, are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So, Corey, you mentioned at the end of segment 1 talking about Pierre Kochetkov and his injury and just coming back from the recovery of the hip. He did dress in the in the 3 Cup final games. Got his name on the cup, which he definitely deserved. And hopefully all signs point to him having a healthy season this upcoming year. I know we're going to get Eric Robinson back before training camp, dealing with, I think it was like a lower body injury that he was dealing with. And of course, with Seth Jarvis being out until late November, early December, I want to ask you, even with, Robinson and Jarvis and their recovery times and timetables and stuff like that, the Hurricanes dealt with a lot of injuries to start last year. Like, I think all of us are pretty much surprised at the fact that Sean Walker was the only guy on the defense, knock on wood, that was healthy the entire year. And I want to ask you, with the Hurricanes doing all that they did last year, finishing, first in the Metro, first in the Eastern Conference, with all these guys injured, let's say these guys remotely stay healthy and we're getting, maybe not as many injuries to the blue line for the first couple months. Do you think that could possibly help the Hurricanes even more than they did, which is crazy to think about the fact that they just won the cup? But like, do you think if the health this year might help them in some way, or just overall give them a better opportunity, I guess, if that makes sense?
It's really impossible to know, right? I mean, some injuries are because guys aren't in shape or guys are, banged up for whatever reason, and some injuries just happen. So, I mean, we just, we're not going to know how that stuff shakes out. It is a shorter off season, and the Hurricanes have gone deep year after year after year. So there is a lot of miles on these guys. So there's going to be bumps and bruises. There's going to be guys who come to camp and don't feel as fresh as guys who come into camp for Florida. Florida didn't have to play in the playoffs at all. They've been off since April. So here we are in August, and they've been off for 4 months. The Hurricanes have, barely been off for 2 months. So, that's a factor for sure. I think, we talked about the depth of the roster and everything and the guys who could, knock on the door a little bit. And, there's, an opportunity for guys, I think, to, have a chance to play some games if those injuries happen. They've got some young guys that I think they're still pretty excited about. Obviously, Felix Understorm, I thought, had a really good year. Bradley Nadeau will probably have the inside track to make the roster coming out of camp, with Seth Jarvis hurt. Nick Delorier could play more games. We didn't see a ton of Nick Delorier, but I would not be surprised to see him dress opening night against the Panthers. I can tell you that. So, it'll be interesting to see just how, it's a short off season. It's, as everybody sees on social media, these guys are all having their moments with the cup and everything. It's not, it's not a normal summer in any way between how short it is and everything that's going on. I mean, all 3 goalies from last year got married. I'm sure somebody's having a kid somewhere, like always somebody's having a kid. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't think there's anybody right now, but you've got all these guys now have families, it wasn't but a few years ago that, it was Jordan Stahl with kids and pretty much nobody else. And now you look around and Jordan Martinook has 3 kids all of a sudden, and Kendra Miller's got his first, and Sean Walker, and Shane Gostisbehere and everything. So so it's just it'll be interesting to see, and then they've got to show that they've got that hunger to do it again. So there are questions about that stuff, and it all the health stuff. Try not to get too caught up in it. I think they did the things they had to do this offseason. I was a little surprised there wasn't anything for Jacob Slavin. I thought, that knee injury seemed to linger all year long, and I thought maybe it was something that was going to require cleanup. Apparently not. But getting Seth Jarvis taken care of is huge for him because this sets him up to come back healthy and then doesn't cost him a chance to play in the World Cup or the or the Olympics in a few years or anything. So that's big for him, and he'll be a guy that'll he's going to infuse. Whenever he does come back, let's say it's January, he's going to give the team a huge boost. So I'll be interested to see how everyone looks. I'm sure there are not going to be any long faces about training camp. I'm sure they're all going to be excited to get back to it. It's tough. I think it's tough when you lose and then you come back and you realize you're so very far from getting another chance. Now it's going to be about all right, we're on the top of the mountain. Let's see if we can keep pushing people down as they try to climb up on it.
Yeah, no, and actually I wanted to ask you about that, and I've kind of talked about this offseason and just the fact that we know this team doesn't really need extra motivation. This has always been a motivated team under Brad Brind'Amour, and I think now it's like you said, they're not chasing. Now they are at the top of the mountain. Now it's defending, and I feel like that even like now they got over the hump. I don't think it's going to take any wind out of their sails, or are they going to like back off. I feel like this is a team that's so motivated. Like we heard them talk about it at the parade. Like they want to be back again. Do you feel like that this team, like I said, regardless of them needing motivation, do you feel like that this team is just they're ready to come back and just kind of do it all over again? And just are we looking at with how the roster's signed through at least this season and beyond? Like, is there potential for something that's going to be not? This isn't just going to be another one-hit wonder season. Then it's like years of nothing. Like, do we feel like are we on a precipice of something that could be? No, this team is going to be the next Kings, Blackhawks, Penguins. Like these guys are Lightning, Florida, just this team that's going to be back here again and again and again.
I don't think there's any doubt they're going to compete. They've done that since Rod Brind'Amour became coach. I don't think there's any concerns that they're going to fall off the way the 06, 07.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about that. As far as, you could say the right things. I don't have any worries about the guys who are wear the letters in that room. I don't, the Jordan Stalls, the Sebastian Ahos, the Jordan Martinuks, the Jacob Slavins, they're all going to come back and want to do it again. You just don't know on an individual basis. Like, you can say all you want that you want to come back and do it again. But we'll see. A lot of guys have just reached everything they've ever dreamed for. And it would not be hard to be like, I did it. And, I can take a step back. And, but, knowing the DNA of this team and especially the young guys, the Stankovens and Blakes, they only know how to play one way. I think Taylor Hall is going to have so much fun getting to start a year playing with those guys and maybe show that, he's not a 20-goal guy anymore or a 15-goal guy. Maybe he's still a 30-goal guy. I think there's the little things that you have to do to motivate guys. And obviously the biggest motivation is, hey, let's go do it again. And let's, everyone's saying, oh, you didn't go through the Panthers. Well, let's show people we can go through the Panthers. Or, that'll be the rallying cry, I think, within the guys who are, motivated to do it again. The question is, can you pull everybody in and say, yeah, we did it, but how great would it be to do it again? And you can't really quantify whether or not that's going to be the case. I don't think anybody thought this past year that Florida didn't have the want to do it again. They did it twice in a row, and injuries struck, and you lose your best player, and things happen. So you have to have that mentality if you want to do it again, is to just be willing to bear down and do it. So we'll see. I mean, the league is ever evolving with who's the contender and who's on the rise and who's falling, and so it'll be interesting to see how is Florida this year. Yes, they're going to get Alexander Barkov back, and yes, he looked good in the World Championships, but the World Championships aren't the NHL. Let's just be clear on that. And these knee injuries, if we look, you can go look at the NHL Edge data on guys who've had knee injuries. Look at Andrei Svechnikov before his injury, after his injury. Look at Taylor Hall before his injury, after his injury. look at how long it took those guys to get back to those, high speed burst numbers and things like that. Those things matter. Now, Barkov is not a guy who predicates his game on speed, but that stuff does matter. So I'll be curious to see how a team like that is getting their big horse back, but also, they're not getting younger. Brad Marchand is not getting younger. Aaron Ekblad's not getting younger. So it'll be interesting to see how they can piece things together. And then there's other, Montreal's going to come back with a burr in their saddle because they got manhandled in the Eastern Conference Final. I mean, just absolutely dominated and learned what it takes to win. Much in the same way the Hurricanes have learned, what it takes to win. And they never got dominated in that sense. I mean, we can talk about the sweeps and everything, but, it wasn't like that where Montreal literally looked like a minor league team in a lot of those games. So it'll be fun to see how those teams, there's other teams that are going to want to knock the Hurricanes off, react to the way their seasons went. Can Montreal build off of that? Is Buffalo, can they build off of what they did? There's a lot of interesting little subplots in the Eastern Conference and around the league that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, no, they'll be fun to watch. It'll be really interesting to see how all of it plays out. But, I mean, we know one thing's for sure. Last year was definitely the perfect storm for the Carolina Hurricanes. So stick around. We'll actually talk about Cory's book here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, so we talked about Hurricanes offseason so far, talking about, possibly running it back, with the roster and how this year is going to look. But now let's actually talk about your book, Cory. I mean, like I said, The Perfect Storm, it's been out for a little while now. You can find it in your bookstores. You can find it online. I know it's actually down here in South Carolina because it's actually at my local bookstore at Barnes & Noble. So yeah. I saw them like, hey, I know that book. Yeah, so if you guys haven't gotten this thing yet, please do. It's really good. I mean, the artwork is absolutely amazing on the inside. You're talking all 19 games. And I like the fact that the back it says 20 years in the making because it definitely was. But for Cory, obviously, like I said, I've read this thing 3 times. It's absolutely amazing. I love what you did here with this. But for you, what was that process like? Like, how did this all come about for you to just go and do all 19 games and basically put it into a commemorative book talking about this latest cup run for the Canes?
Yeah, so Triumph Books, which is the publisher, reached out to me, a little bit before the regular season ended and kind of said, hey, this is a team that has a chance to go somewhere. Are you interested in doing something if that happens? So it kind of got locked in once they, punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup Final. So it was just a matter of, I actually started stuff in the conference final, and once we're in the Stanley Cup Final, we were working on stuff and getting everything done, and it was it's a lot of stuff from the season, so it's not like I wrote a behind the scenes story about the season or anything, but I think it's a great compilation of everything that happened. It's a great thing to pick up and remember, like, hey, what was that play that happened in Game 4 against, Philadelphia? What happened, and to kind of relive those moments and things, and the stuff that happened throughout the year. Brandon Bussey getting his extension, the trade for Nick Delorier, just fun little things throughout the season that kind of showed, Jacob Slavin coming back from injury and what he meant to the team as the team went on. So it was really cool to kind of get it kind of all packaged into one thing that people can just look back on and enjoy. And that was the big thing for me, was to make it something that you can pick up, and it's, like you said you've read it cover to cover, but I mean, it's not the kind of thing you have to read cover to cover. You could certainly just pick it up and use it almost as a reference guide for the season, right? It's like one of those commemorative DVDs that shows you the highlights of what happened throughout the year. So it was cool to do, and a neat opportunity, and the reaction's been really, really great. I'm pretty humbled by it. It's a little funny to have people, talk about it because, I don't know. I just, it was, we actually went to my wife had an author that she really likes that was at Quail Ridge Books yesterday. Wednesday. So we went over there, and I dropped her off, and I was just kind of poking around, and I saw the person who, I'm going to be there next week, and it was a little weird to have this author in there that my wife has followed for 20 years that has all these, best-selling books and has been on Good Morning America a bunch of times. And then I'm there next week as just like a guy from Raleigh. So, like I said, it's pretty humbling, and I'm really flattered by the people who have enjoyed it and said nice things and everything. And I'm glad that it's had the reaction that it's had. It's been nice to hear people, have enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I remember when you first made the announcement of the book coming out, and for the pre-orders and stuff like that, and everyone was just like all over. And of course, like it sold out, then it came back in stock and sold out again. Yeah. It's just for you, like what's it like? I know you kind of like I know it's humbling, and it's like kind of like the reactions are great. Like for you, what was that like though? Just kind of seeing like people being like, "Hey, when's it gonna be back in stock again?" Like, and it's constantly selling out. Like you said, it's down here in South Carolina, which is absolutely amazing. Like, what does that mean for you? Just like how much like the fan base just kind of just gravitates and just rallies around you and the book and just this whole situation of just riding this high of the Hurricanes doing the thing. And now you've got like I said, you have a book event coming up and all this. So like, what's that just for you? Like just the reaction and just the thoughts of all this happening.
Yeah, it's all been a little surreal. I didn't really know what to expect. I was like, I hope they sell enough books to make the money back that they're paying.
I'm feeling they did.
They've been pleased with the sales and everything, so I guess it went okay for them. Like I said, it's been pretty humbling that people care enough to read the stuff I've written and have had the reaction they've had. It's been really, really cool, and a lot of people from I've got people from that just know me who are like, "Man, send me a book, I want to see it." And and then I did one like kind of meet and greet signing thing in Wake Forest at Page 158 Books a few weeks ago. It was just cool talking to people and getting to talk to fans and stuff, and so all that's been really cool. It's like I said, it's a little surreal and it's pretty humbling that people even want me to write in their book. So I just keep telling my wife, I'm like, it's kind of weird. I don't even know, I had to figure out something to inscribe because I'm like, I don't even know what to say. Like, so I guess it's been really awesome. Like I've been really impressed with just the reaction and just, like I said, very thankful that people have enjoyed it. That's the big thing is I think it's the kind of thing that you can put on your coffee table or put on your bookshelf. And when they go into a 4-game losing streak this year and everyone loses their mind, you can maybe pull it off the shelf and remember like, hey, it's not the end of the world. One of my favorite stories in there, which is one I wrote during the year, was just after the Florida game, where they had the big win against Florida. I felt like that was really the turning point of both of those team seasons. And just, to me, that's a really cool kind of moment of, everyone thinks, Ovechkin's got to beat the Penguins to win the cup and everything and do it in the playoffs. And I thought it was really cool that they had that big win and just a dominant win where they just kind of kept coming and coming and coming against Florida. And it felt like that was a really, to me, a big, big moment, especially after what had happened earlier in the year against them and against Tampa, where they had that little, that little bit. And I mean, they were, obviously really banged up then and stuff. But I think there's just cool moments like that you can kind of look back on and live through. And like you said, I think the photography, the design stuff that Triumph did was really, really good. It's been a lot of fun. I'm excited. I didn't know it had made it across state lines, so that's pretty cool that it's gotten there. And I know it's done really well at the local bookstores and has sold out at some of the Barnes and Noble and things like that. So I'm glad that I think, another thing I think is the price point's not like ridiculous, like
no, I mean
the kind of thing if you walk by and you're a Hurricanes fan, you see it's a $19 book at $18.99 or $18.95. It's
$18.95, yeah.
Yeah,
it's not bad at all.
You're not putting, putting off paying a bill to buy the book. It's you and your best friend don't go out to Starbucks for an afternoon and you can get a book instead. So I was impressed that they were able to put together something so nice and so quickly. The turnaround was so fast. At a price point that's easy for people to, get one and enjoy it. So I appreciate you bringing it up, and I appreciate you getting a copy too. It's been really cool.
Yeah, no, yeah. When I saw that you put the link up for it, say, hey, I'm ready. The book's coming out soon. I'm like, I could not hit pre-order fast enough. That's how good it was. Like I said, yeah. And, like the thing too is it's like, cause like Barnes and Noble, like, like the hockey section's so small, but the thing was, it was on an end cap. So it was like front and center next to like the Sports Illustrated and like NHL stuff. And then they had a lot of Formula One stuff too. So like it was prominent around an end cap where everyone could see it. So yeah, the fact that got down here to Columbia, South Carolina I'm like, hey, I know the book. I know the guy who wrote that thing. So yeah, no, it's been absolutely amazing too. But so I guess if you're living under a rock or don't know, Cory, where could people find the book online, local stores, the big chain stores? Where can people find Perfect Storm? And like I said, it's a must read for me. It's a must read thing this summer. Where can people find it?
Yeah, so the first time I saw it out in the wild actually is kind of funny because my wife and I had planned a trip for quite a while to go. We went to Denmark and Sweden and Amsterdam this summer shortly after the season ended, and we had planned that trip around two things, which is one, we have to make sure that it doesn't bump into a potential Stanley Cup final, which luckily we did that, and then secondly was we wanted to go see The Cure. And they were touring in Europe,
nice.
So basing our trip about where they were going to be and what we could do based off of that. So obviously we ended up seeing them in Denmark. But the first time I saw it, other than the copies I got at home that came to me pretty quickly after the book was done, was at the airport at RDU. It's at a couple of the airport bookshops. So that was kind of funny. We were getting ready to go to fly to Copenhagen, and they had told me, it's going to be in, at the Hudson Books or whatever, and we looked in the Hudson Books and didn't see it, but then the WRAL store had it on the counter actually. So that was kind of fun. But so as far as where you can get it locally, Quail Ridge Books, which is where I'm going to have that book signing on Thursday. And if anyone's interested in going to that, you have to buy tickets for it, but the ticket comes with a copy of the book. So, and that will just be like a meet and greet and a signing. I'm not reading anything or anything like y'all know the story. Quail Ridge, page 158. I know that they were close to sold out again. They sold out a couple times, and I had signed some copies for them in the store I think they still had a few left. So I don't know where they are with that, but you can check there certainly. All the Barnes and Nobles, I guess, even in South Carolina, according to you.
Yep.
I know Sam's Club has them. I guess they were in Walgreens. I didn't know that until people told me they bought it in Walgreens. So, so it's around, and certainly. And then if you want to get it through Triumph Books, you can do that too. That's just triumphbooks.com/CanesWin. And you can get it that way. And I will say, like everybody I know who got it that way, it came in like a nice sturdy packaging, so it wasn't like just stick a label on it and shove it in your mailbox. It did come nicely packaged, so it wouldn't be damaged or anything like that. So I don't know. Did yours come that way?
Yeah, I got mine off the link that you did for Triumph. Yeah, it came in a nice box, and it was like perfect. It just opened up nicely, and it was just right in there. So I'm like, great, I can confirm, and it's in a very nice box.
So yeah, I was happy that it doesn't just get like stuffed in a mail. I worked for magazine companies in the past, and a big cost was actually mailing them. So the fact that they take the care to do that nicely too is nice. So so that's kind of where you can get it. And some people have asked me, I can't get to a book signing or whatever, and they want me to sign the book. If anyone wants that, we'll figure something out during the season. I can always pop it down and sign people's books if that's what they want. Again, that all feels a little weird. Like, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to talk to people, but it does feel a little bizarre that people want me to sign things, but I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, hey guys, you got 42 games now to do it this year to be like, hey, Cory, can you sign my books? And then now you have 42 games, not 41-42, which is, it's crazy to think that we're talking about 84 regular season games now, and the fact that the lower bowl has changed. So a lot of new things going on for the upcoming season. But I don't know about you. I know you're enjoying the off time. I am too, but I'm also getting that itch. I'm ready to talk Canes hockey and not just, well, what could possibly happen? What's going to happen with all this and the other? But yeah, I'm ready for it to be here, but also kind of enjoying the off time too, because that, like you said, that was a long playoff run, but it ended in a very nice way for sure.
Yeah, and we got the prospect tournament here this year too, so that's something fun people can check out and get a look at some of these young guys that the Hurricanes have. And obviously I haven't seen rosters yet, but the way things have changed so much with college hockey and things, I think they can probably have some of those. In the past you couldn't have those kind of guys come because, it would take your eligibility away. So it'll be cool if they can get, the Jaden Perrons of the world or whatever, some of the college guys that they've drafted. And, people also can maybe get their first look, at least in Raleigh for guys like Charlie Serrano and then see the development of some other guys and things like that. So, newly traded for guys, I imagine we'll probably, see some of that. So, so it'll start, it's going to be upon us quicker than we think. And, and before we know it, it'll be playoff time again. So that's just the way this is.
It really does. Yeah. You feel like the offseason takes forever, then the season's here, and then all of a sudden it's over again. You're like, wait, what happened? I thought we just started. So yeah. It's like you're ready for it to start, and then all of a sudden it's over again. And you're like, okay, somehow we're already next summer, but yeah, the hockey season definitely flies by. But Cory, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And then I know, like I said, it's trying to relax, got a lot of stuff going on, but I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and talk about your book and then just talk about the Hurricanes overall for the off season. Before I let you go, where can people find you? And obviously we know about your book, but where can people find all the articles that you do with North State Journal and the Athletic and all of that stuff?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously you can follow me on social media. I'm at Cory Lav on, X and on Blue Sky. I don't really venture into Instagram or things like that, but maybe one day. We'll see.
One day.
So obviously at North State Journal, majority of my stuff is there. And then a little hiatus from the Athletic right now, just kind of the off season, but we'll gear that back up too. And I'll be writing weekly for them again. So as far as I know, that's I think I'm still under contract. So we'll do that again, and looking forward to that and working with them. And I had a lot of fun this year just working with the guys there. I just picked up Julian McKenzie's book yesterday when I was at Quail Ridge. Julian McKenzie
I saw that. Yeah,
covers the Senators for the Athletic, and he wrote a great book about black players in the NHL called Black Aces. So I'd encourage anyone to certainly pick that up too if you're looking for some good reading over the summer. I got Chris Pronger's book too, and I got two books I started at the same time, which is bad.
I feel that. Trust me.
I'll just keep them in different rooms and bounce back and forth or something. But so for sure, North State Journal and then the Athletic, I'll have stuff there, and I like to be active on social media, and I like to pop up in. Whether it's you or, some of the local radio guys or some of the national radio people and stuff, I love popping in and just talking Hurricanes and, building those relationships around the league and stuff. It's always cool to hear people's perspective on the team. And a lot of times gives me a new perspective on things too, as someone who's seeing things from the outside a little and can, kind of like watching a game from the press box, right? Sometimes when you back up a little bit, you get a better perspective on things. So, I'm always around on social media, and not as active this time of year, but we'll start back up again soon. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's weird in the off season where it's just, you're kind of like, you kind of want to be active, but you're also kind of like, I want to take a break. So try to write content this off season, with the Hurricanes being quiet, you got to figure out what you got to do for sure. But like I said, Cory, thank you so much. I really, appreciate your time talking to me, and hope you have a great, rest of your Thursday and into your weekend. And then before you know, we'll probably be running back into each other on press row again and watching the Hurricanes and, watching them kind of defend a title and not chase it this time. So like I said, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, always good catching up with you, Zach, and always good seeing you at the rink. And we got a banner raising coming up soon. It's kind of crazy to think there's,
Right.
The coronation isn't complete, I guess, until we see that. So, yeah, lots to look forward to. But we could slow it down. I think a little more time. So.
Yeah, right. Just slow down a little bit. It'll be all right. We don't need to get there that quick. So, yeah, right. All right. Have a great rest of your night, Cory. Appreciate it.
Thanks, bud.
Big thank you to Cory for coming on and talking to me about just the Hurricanes this offseason, what we'll be looking at this upcoming year. And obviously, like I said, his book, The Perfect Storm. So make sure to check it on Triumph Books if you want to get over there, or your local shops. You said Quail Books might have one over there, Book 158, your Barnes & Nobles, apparently your Walgreens and all that stuff. But like I said, $18.95, or if you're in Canada, $24.95 in Canadian dollars. But like I said, The Perfect Storm is a fantastic book. I highly recommend reading it. It's great. He said commemorative, he talked about how we used to get commemorative DVDs. I still have the one from the 10th anniversary season and when they won in 2006. So maybe hopefully we'll get a 2026 commemorative DVD thing on the Hurricane season. But if we don't, at least you got a very cool commemorative book to read. So make sure to check that out. And thank you to everyone who's been listening to the show the last couple weeks. I know it's been very short on news overall. We're still doing our top 25 list. We'll jump back into that for Monday's show. I will have a guest for next Wednesday's show, so we will have another quick pause midweek on the top 25 Hurricanes list. So make sure to be here for the Wednesday show of Locked On Hurricanes. It'll be a lot of fun. But we're going back into the top 25 on Monday and on next Friday. Of course, that's barring of any type of news. But hopefully, I hope you guys loved this episode with Cory. I know I enjoy talking to him. It's always great talking to Cory, and just when it comes to the Hurricanes and all that fun stuff. But until next week, guys, this will be the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen of the day. Now on video, we send you to the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 YouTube channel, and on audio, check out Locked On NHL for your second listen of the day. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin, where if you click the link to my bio, you can find all my written content at thehockeywriters.com. If you want to listen to this on your favorite podcast platform, we're on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio. Just make sure to leave a 5-star rating and a review for that. And if you want to watch us on YouTube, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notifications, don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up to if you like the show as well. Share with other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Friday edition with Cory. Enjoy your Friday and enjoy your weekend. Until next time, as always, let's go Canes.